That's a good volume, right?
Just quite turn it off.
Yeah.
Off? We're gonna boil
Oh,
the
then right there.
Right here.
Yeah,
right?
that's fine, I think.
You can go one lower. What's that?
That's fine. You can barely hear it.
Yeah, that's fine.
What's this?
No.
Okay, gentlemen.
Then it's off.
Go
That's not
ahead.
off.
We're recording.
Okay. 137, I think.
37. What's 137?
Episode.
Oh,
Hey Guru Nation, welcome to episode 137 of Random Musings from the Clinical Trials Guru. This will also go on YouTube because I am in the car with Chris Sauber. People ask me, how do you film and do everything else you do? And it's very simple. You record everything as you're doing it, or as much as you can legally. Right, Chris?
well, I don't know. I don't do that, but sure.
Yeah, you do. You're you're complicit in all of this.
Thanks. No suing me if you're suing Dan. That's all I gotta say.
So we just left the clinic in Bellflower. They're a client. They're actually a digital they're not a digital marketing client, but I'm teaching them how to do that. I built their website, and we're consulting with them on getting studies, biz dev. We did one interview with each of the members, the PI, the coordinator, the business development guy. A lot of interesting stories from all three of them. Right?
Yeah, not necessarily to do with research, but absolutely interesting stories.
And you talked with the director. What did you? He's very new to research, so what did you get out of him?
I mean, we did a tour of the facility. That was the only thing really related to research. Everything else was more as his past lives, what he's done.
Okay.
So
His background's like music industry, right?
yeah, he was a professional musician, and then he got quite the interesting crossover. He went from professional musician to professional motorcyclist, right? I forget the term.
Motocross.
Motocross, yes. Thank you.
He's like a daredevil, like do those jumps and flips.
Right. Yep.
So this podcast episode, we're going to another client in LA. We're going to be shooting another podcast episode, more videos there, and talking business. Let's talk CRO, because we just got off the phone with a colleague. We're going to get hopefully another CRO project.
Yep.
But we already have a CRO project. And when I was driving
just to interject real quick. Not a lot of work currently with our current CRO project. Very little work.
Yes, but when I was driving to our first client by myself, because now we're carpooling, but I drove by myself, I was thinking, there's some things we're not doing, and this is good that we're documenting everything as we grow, because we definitely don't know everything there is to be known about how to run a study from a CRO perspective.
Sure.
I mean, we're learning on the fly.
Absolutely.
But it's good that we're documenting, because there's other people out there listening, watching, that have similar ambitions, and so they'll kind of look at what we've done right, what we've done wrong, and we can share the progress of our journey. So driving here, I was thinking, they already screened a patient, but we're not having them do any screening and enrollment log. There's a lot of little things we're not doing that we need to start having them do now that the study's started.
However,
what do you think about that?
Well, that's what I was going to interject. That's not really our responsibility. That's not our defined responsibility as we've been employed by the sponsor, right? That's more that we can make that recommendation to be nice, but it's not what we've been hired to do.
We've been hired strictly for CRA and
strictly for CRA.
That's it.
Yeah.
SIV, SSV.
We proposed to be the CRO, and they said no, and that's not necessary. We have our own project manager.
Good point. Because that's not in our budget to do
Correct.
all that. Now, do you think we should do it? Because it's not going to really cost us much.
No,
like
I said, to be nice, and we both very much like the sponsor.
Yeah, we feel like we're in a relationship rather than a transaction.
Right, and we both very much like him.
But even if we didn't like him,
sure.
Let's say, I think it would still be good to do it for the practice.
Well, not only for the practice, it's just really it's a considerate thing to do. If you see something that they should be doing, they're not doing, and again, it's not our responsibility, so I don't think we can be held responsible that they're not doing it, but it's certainly considerate to point it out, right?
So what are some of the things, because I just thought of random things as I was driving, screening and enrollment log, and what got me to start thinking about that was I was thinking about, they screen their first patient, and then I was wondering, did they screen their next? And I keep getting emails. So there's got to be a more formal way to do this.
So for starters, I don't know if that's a requirement necessarily. I know, most if not all studies, this is necessary from our perspective of the study site. But I don't necessarily think that serves the purpose to the FDA in any way.
No, nothing to do with the FDA. It's more to help the CRO and plan logistics.
Right,
you don't want to get caught off
That's
guard that there's like 7 screenings.
That's the purpose that they keep these logs, right?
Yeah.
It's just to know how things are progressing.
So you can plan as the CRO, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing I've noticed about this study, we don't even have, they've already screened, they don't even have an EDC system set up.
Well, no, they do.
They do?
Yeah, they do. That's what a lot of those emails that were back and forth 2 weeks ago.
But then we, as the CRAs,
right, we have no access.
done the training or
Yeah,
have
no
access or anything, and neither do the staff. Because I asked one of the staff members last week, did you enter the data? And they said no.
Well, remember how he was complaining how much money he's already paid for the EDC when we were there? You recall this?
Yeah.
And it's still not up and running officially. I think it is now because they were having conversations like a couple weeks ago. So yeah, that would be something we should probably reach out to them about.
Okay.
Hey, has your staff entered the data into EDC, and where's our access?
Okay.
And we'll need, I would guess, 3 or 4 total.
Well, you'll need an account. I'll need one.
Sure, and then 2 employees.
2 of our employees from the CRO side, and then at the site level, every site, the coordinator and the PI at least.
Yeah.
And this vendor charges per user?
I don't know. That didn't come up in our conversations. I have no idea how they charge.
What are some of the other things that we're missing that, maybe we weren't hired to do, but are under a traditional CRO, they would be expected to do? Because now that we might get another project and another one after,
Sure.
we should have I know we have SOP, but we should have each one kind of the same, like the same structure.
So what are they not doing that they should be doing?
Yeah, like I thought of screening an enrollment log. Just so that I know where we stand and when we need to plan our next visit.
Sure. So I honestly haven't put any thought into this.
Yeah, that's why it's a good content.
So I don't know if I'm going to come up with anything, but let's see.
We always come up with something. We've seen some SUSARs already. Safety
there's some things that are typically done again that aren't necessarily required, but you could have newsletters
for the other sites to know.
Yeah, what's going on in the study and where things are at. And then also the purpose of newsletters is to point out mistakes other sites are making to try and prevent those occurring and reoccurring.
Mm-hmm. They wanted a weekly teleconference, but we haven't had those.
Right.
And typically studies don't have weekly they have like maybe monthly or quarterly, right? I know internally the team does, but not with all the sites involved.
Right. Internally it's usually weekly, and then
sometimes daily if it's like,
and unless it's something major, there's usually not a study-wide teleconference unless it's something major.
Because as far as our SDV, we're supposed to be doing a lot of the remote monitoring in between our physical visits.
Mm-hmm.
So the way it's structured is Chris or I will alternate to go out on a physical site visit. We'll alternate. Mm-hmm. But those are like every 4 to 6 months.
It might be a year now after we saw that lab quote.
I doubt it. I doubt it'll be a year. It'll be like let's just say every 4 months.
Can you believe how expensive it is for such a small study, the labs? You saw that quote, right? You saw the bottom line, the total number?
Yeah, but that vendor is huge.
Yeah, it's the biggest one in the industry.
Yeah. We quoted them a better vendor.
At least cost-wise.
But they weren't, I think they were not capable of doing all the tests.
I mean, we haven't mentioned any names. Do you remember the bottom line? I think it was 5 million? 3 million. 3 or 5 million. I don't remember which one it was.
For the lab?
Yeah, it was either. I think it was 3 million and some change for the labs. This is only for what is it, 60 patients?
Yeah. But there were some specialized tests, though.
Yeah, but those...
Because it is oncology.
Yeah, but if you looked at it... you didn't look closely at it, did you?
No.
I know you don't.
How am I going to have time for that?
Well, you can still open it and look at it for 30 seconds. That's what I did.
I think that's what I did.
Everything is costly. Just even the shipping was very expensive. I can't remember what the total cost was, like $75,000 or $125,000, something like that.
Jeez.
So yeah, I mean it's costly. At least what they're charging.
Yeah. So what do you think now? How long have we been running the CRO?
A couple years, maybe a year and a half. A couple years. When did we start with? I don't know if I should have said that. I think it's okay though, right?
I could edit that part out, but yeah. We started July of 2017.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And about maybe
And then right after we did a protocol synopsis for someone else.
right, and we were trying to get projects maybe 6 to 8 months prior to that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll call it January 2017.
Yeah, and then late 2017 we finally got our first, we
Right.
inked our first deal, right?
Right.
And now we're actually doing
Yeah.
we're doing phone SSVs next week as the CRA,
Right.
which by the way we're not charging for, right?
Doing that on Thursday, right?
We're doing that out of goodwill.
We still haven't gotten the time for that. Miss, you know where you are.
She sent me an email,
Okay.
so I got to reply back.
Okay.
But I'll do it when we get there. Yeah, so what are your experiences so far? What were your expectations of operating a CRO? Because we've both done the sites
We really haven't
for
really.
years,
We haven't
decades.
really operated a CRO yet. Now,
But we are
just-
operating one now.
yeah, but I mean not to its full extent, right?
Right.
It hasn't been a full service gig yet.
We're just documenting the progress. Like, what's cool about these is 6 months from now, we'll know much more about it.
Well, we've
Right.
kind of we've handled everything for the most part that a CRO would, outside of two parts, right? We haven't that a CRO might do. We haven't done the initial FDA submission for documents,
Thank God we have a guy to do that.
right? We haven't done that. We haven't handled that, and we haven't handled on the back end an FDA audit either, right? Really, anything to do with FDA, we haven't dealt with from a CRO perspective.
Stay
right?
away.
Yeah, right.
Do we have our insurance yet?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to talk to you about that. I found a much cheaper place. But,
Let's talk about it here.
well, everybody has to apply individually.
Explain the context.
So it's errors and omissions insurance.
E&O.
Right.
By the way, any independent contract CRA, I highly recommend you get
It's not.
E&O.
It's not costly either. I found the site. It's. I can't remember the exact cost, but it's right around $500 for a year, and that's $1 million, $2 million aggregate, and no deductible.
Okay.
So much cheaper than the place that I initially talked to with
The first place was Hiscox?
Yeah, with the $7,500 deductible and $2,500 a year.
So who's this one? Who's this vendor?
They cater to medical research.
Oh, okay. What's their name? We didn't sign a
I don't
CDA.
remember the name
Oh,
of the
okay.
company.
Okay.
I have it bookmarked on my laptop. But
Yeah, it's funny you say the name of clients that we've signed CDAs for and not vendors that we have.
I don't say the name of clients.
Okay. Well, it's edited, so no one's heard
I
it.
said the name of a sponsor.
No one's heard it. It's consider it edited. So E&O insurance. So we don't have it yet because you found a cheaper one.
Yeah, but and I wanted to discuss this with you. So each individual needs to apply separately.
So I've got to
Potentially.
apply. But
Potentially.
we can't do it under our CRO.
No, you have to do it under your name.
So if the CRO gets sued, then we're not
But
covered.
we're not a CRO here, right now.
Yeah, we are because we're getting paid through the CRO.
That's through the company in this particular instance, right? I mean, yes, it's the company CRO,
The
but,
CRO's on the contract.
but we're not a CRO for this study.
Right, but our CRO company name is on the contract.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, if everybody who's working on the project, if they're insured,
Okay.
we're okay.
Okay. So, and it's cheaper that way.
Yeah.
I see. Then I guess we can do it.
Total cost was under $600.
This project I'm not worried about. It's the bigger ones where you actually increase your chance of getting sued
Sure.
that I'm more concerned with.
Sure.
But we gotta set the foundation now, right?
And at that point, we could reach out and get insurance for that as
The
well.
more expensive one.
Yeah.
So what do you think about now that you're technically a CRA?
What about it?
Like, what do you think? What were your expectations? I don't like being a CRA, I'll just be honest. I have a side CRA gig.
Well, I mean,
I do it to pay my taxes and to pay off my credit cards. And it's really easy. I like that one because I don't have to travel. And for the CRO, when I'm a CRA for our company, I don't mind it because it's my own company.
sure.
But the actual CRA work, I know that that's really not for me.
Yeah, it'll get old fast.
Right?
Yeah, and I mean, how many calls from CRAs that want to be clients do we take now? I mean, it's all the time. CRAs don't like this
CRAs
work.
that want to open their own clinics.
Yeah, because they don't like this work. It's grueling, right?
And ours is not even grueling.
No, it's not. So it just goes to show how much.
And we don't even have like line managers yelling at us or giving us a hard time.
Right.
We have like the medical basically the guy who's funding the study is like our best friend pretty much in this study, like in
Right.
the context of the study.
Right.
We don't have like a project manager that's like,
Difficult to work with.
yeah, or like intentionally trying to give you a lot of work so you quit. Like there's a lot of politics that go into these big CROs
Sure.
that we're not exposed to.
Sure.
And we still think it's not for us.
Yeah. As soon as we can afford it, there will be other CRAs hired.
Yeah, and we have the remote monitor series, which we actually need to talk to the doctor about to see what the formal schedule would be for them to start reviewing data.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, with one patient that I know of, one patient in screening, do you remember off the top of your head when the next visit's supposed to be after the screening?
So I would assume the patient's already randomized.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would assume.
So that's at least another visit
I
that...
would assume they've already received medication.
So we should have a SDV.
I would yeah, maybe
Aren't you supposed to have a CRA...
2 weeks typically.
Yeah, whether it's remote or on-site, you should have a CRA
Sure.
SDV it right away after randomization,
Well,
right?
it's kind of difficult to do when we're supposed to do it remotely and it's not entered into EDC.
Exactly, yeah.
At least that, as far as we're aware.
But it's almost better that we got started with a small project like
Oh
this.
yeah, because
Because we have our training wheels on still.
right, and any mistakes made can just as well be explained by their mistake as ours.
And then when we get other projects, we'll kind of know where the pitfalls are early on.
Right.
Just like when we started sites. Like, where the pitfalls are early on in a study. Well, and then every study is different, right? Like, every study has its own
Oh yeah, you
traps.
That's true of life in general, right?
Yeah.
If you're not a complete idiot, you learn from your mistakes and correct moving forward, right?
That's right.
So
And now we're going to meet with one of the sites that we're going to is a client of ours, right? Are they even a client? No, they're not a client. We're about to be a partner with one of their doctors.
we're going to discuss this potential business relationship.
There's that. They're a digital marketing client of mine, so that's the second bird we're going to kill. And then the third one is they're oncologists for this study where we're adding a new site.
Yep.
We're not going to meet them, but they're on board and they want to do it. So we're going to talk about when we're going to set up the PSSV.
Mm-hmm.
The sponsor's really happy with us now that we were able to find these two sites, the one in Dallas and the one in Chicago,
Right.
and the one here in LA.
Right.
So now we're going to have sites in New York, Dallas, Chicago, and LA.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be going to each one of those every 4 to 6 months,
Maybe.
alternating.
I'm still telling you, I think it's going to boil down to about once a year.
I think it's going to be twice a year
Well,
per site.
It should even be more often than that, really.
It should
But-
be every 3 months, but with remote monitoring,
No, that's with the remote monitoring, I think. Once every 3 months, probably.
because the remote monitoring in theory should be daily. Like,
The reason I say it should be every 3 months, and that's really minimum, is just because
the physical on-site visits every
yes,
3 months.
most, if not all, of these sites are new to research, right? Well,
But they've been doing research.
Yes, but new in terms of how they're trying to conduct it.
So explain that, because they were doing lots of academic investigator-initiated studies.
Right, which are not
Very different than industry-sponsored trials.
Right.
What are some of the ways they're different?
Well, I mean, just to look at it in a large scope, I guess. They're not as regulated. They're not as closely watched over, right? They're not as the FDA, I don't think, takes as much interest, possibly.
I think they do.
You think they do in investigator-initiated opposed to
Yeah.
sponsored trials?
Yeah, I just don't think there's...
Because what's the purpose of an investigator-initiated trial? It typically isn't to bring it to market. It's typically to spur on investors, right? To say, hey, here, that we have data here that now shows this could work.
Now go do an industry study.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I don't think the FDA is probably as actively looking at those, because the only real reason to look at it isn't because the drug's going to be going to market. It's more because of safety perspective, right? Are the patients being treated appropriately? That would be really the only reason for the FDA, in my opinion. I don't know. I have no hard and fast evidence for this, but in my opinion, that'd be the only reason really to look at it.
But it seems like we found a new niche that we could focus on now is investigator-initiated trials, which
Yeah.
for the first 12 years of my research career, I just ignored them because
Yeah.
they have nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But now, that's a great way to get started with the CRO. Not only that, what we're trying to do is eventually partner with a couple biotechs. It's a great way, especially if you bring on a bunch of doctors that are interested in the science behind the compounds and
Yeah.
you know.
And the current project we're doing, the doctors even kind of hinted at the fact that he'd be willing to do this with us, right? And we took a call today.
And my dad discovered something from another study
Right.
that he was doing on. He's retired from research, but he's still writing articles and journals, medical journals, or whatever they're called, peer-reviewed journals. And he told me to contact a sponsor to do an investigator-initiated trial. So we're waiting for that. We called them this week. We're waiting for them to get back to us, but that's another opportunity for not just the sites we own, the 2 sites that we're going to do this at, but for our CRO.
Yeah.
And by extension, it's an opportunity for all of the CRA Academy graduates, because now we have real CRA work for them to do.
Absolutely.
And we're almost at this clinic. But
Speaking of that-
what else you got?
Speaking of that potential project, did they get back to you? I know
No.
you called and...
No, not that I know of.
Okay.
My phone's been ringing a lot, but I don't think I've been checking all the voicemails
Okay.
and I've been checking my emails. Nothing yet.
No,
I think next week.
I think we can wrap this up. I think our videographer, his arm is about to fall off.
Thank you, Fina. This was a long one. How long did we go, Fina?
23 minutes.
23 minutes. That's about an average episode length. So, thank you, Chris. Thank you,
thank you.
Fina. And we're just documenting our journey as a CRO and trying to avoid hitting other cars in the process.
At least you have somebody recording.
That's right.
They would know what happened.
They would have known. But in California, I would have been guilty because I would have rear-ended them.
I don't think that's all.